Hello and welcome to Virtual Flight Diaries. I wanted to do a tutorial video for the Black Square Beech B60 Duke. I did a live stream last night and I realized there was a lot to systems that this plane has that makes it wonderful that I just couldn't get in on a live stream. So I thought I'd make a video, maybe answer some of you guys' questions about it, and make it easier to fly because this plane is amazing. So the Beech B60 Duke. The B60 was first flown in 1966. And was then introduced in July of 1968. It was produced from 68 to 83, and it wasn't widely popular. Only about 600 of them were built total, but later on it became almost kind of a cult following, a club, and pilots who owned them loved them, modified them. And so we got the Grand Duke, which is this version right here. So the Grand Duke has a longer range. It can fly a little faster. It can take off in a shorter distance, land in a shorter distance. It has some aerodynamic adjustments to it, like the winglets. And I like this improved version the best out of all three. I bought all three. And I say all three because you say, oh, well, Just Flight only has two. Well, you get the base with the piston version, you get the base and the Grand Duke. So and they're similar, but there's enough to them to make them two separate planes. And then, of course, there's the Turbine Duke, which had PT-635s put on the wings. That thing's just a rocket ship. This plane is like the epitome of the Dukes. So it's I don't know I don't even know how to use the words. So anyway, there's a lot of systems that I want to go over. So let's get inside. So I got this livery off of Flight Sim.to. I made it my own. I have my own custom registration number. We're November 676 Bravo Delta. And look at that cockpit. I mean, the modeling, the texturing is, in my opinion, perfect. I haven't found a flaw to it. So with this, the first thing you're going to do is remove the wheel locks and the throttle lock when you get in the plane. Just get in the habit of click, click, so you don't have to mess with that. So the next thing I do is I go right to the tablet. So there's a plethora of cockpit combinations that we can use, and you can swap them out. So we can start with we have here is the KX155B. So it's just comm radio setup with the GTN 650 as our as our GPS. We can go with the KL90B. So each time you switch, you hit confirm, and it'll hot swap it out. These are just the primaries. You can see the 650 is still here. So if you want to go completely 1980s, you can swap out the secondary to the KX155, and now we are completely 1980s. The KLN 90B has a separate package that you have to download. I don't have that yet. I don't know much about this GPS unit, which was more of a LORAN system using latitude and longitude instead of actual satellite input. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually download it and learn it, and then we're going to do a separate video on the KLN 90B. So then, of course, you can get the GNS 430 set up, and you can do any combinations. So I don't have Sim Update 15, and because of that, the Black Square has decided to disable the working title mod in this. So that's why I can't use the GNS 530s, which is fine by me, because I only use this combinations here. I spent the money on the GTN XI, which is a a brilliant add-on. Although, as you've seen with my GTN XI video, it's tutorial. It can be expensive to buy. $70 might be a little much for some people, but if you can get it, I recommend that. So moving on to the options, I have the cloud strobe effects on because it's rather realistic when you fly through clouds, especially at night. You can see that strobe flash off the cloud layer. I load with covers and chocks deployed, so because just in case I forget, my ground crew can put the engine covers and the chocks in, so that when I come back to the plane, it's all there. The state saving in this plane is spot on. Like, if you leave a switch in a position, it's going to be there when you come back. I don't have to show the co-pilot from the inside because I'm normally flying just me. And then I do fly VATSIM once in a while, so I have this selected so that you can monitor both COM1 and COM2 at the same time. So that's my setup. So moving on to the payload. This payload thing is amazing. So not to knock Flight SimAware, but they don't have really a nice interface with loading up fuel and things, because it's not very specific, especially with baggage and payload. So if you're coming from SimBrief, it's hard to get the exact numbers. You're getting close, but not the exact numbers. With this, you can get the exact numbers. You can put your own weight in. You weigh 200 pounds, you can put 200 pounds in, get more exacting, and then you can follow your SimBrief plan, because you can put fuel in 1 gallon at a time. Well, looks like 5 gallons at a time, but what's good about this is that it doesn't shut down this. So I could go I could go 62, 62. So the Flight Sim Aware one, and Flight Sim Aware is good. The C4, the 414 is the Chancellor is a really good model plane. It was till this came out, it was one of the best out there in my opinion. Same. So you could set this up with the Microsoft Flight Simulator interface, and it'll come out thing. So I think that's a great option. So the next thing I do after I remove the control locks is I come in and I take off these, because you don't want to leave them on, because if you do, and like the engine covers is pretty cool, you can actually look out and see a little flag saying, hey, my engine covers are in. So the next thing I do is take all them out. That way, I don't have to worry about them. And then I set up my weight and balance. You can empty out the plane, and then you get your CG right here. So you can set your trims for takeoff, which are pretty narrow. You don't really need to adjust that. As long as it's in the green, you're getting off the ground. So you can open up through here, you can refuel the oxygen if you needed it. Open the cabin door and the nose baggage. So this is a 6-place plane. 6-person or passenger plane. And it has two Lycoming TIO 541 engines in it. So it's 540 series engines. They're 380 horsepower apiece. These guys are powerful. And the Grand Duke is turbocharged. This plane loves to be up in the flight levels. Just saying. So moving on, we have left engine and right engine monitoring on the tablet. I don't use this. I will be using this to demonstrate things that are going on within the engine. But the only thing I use this for is if I need to do some repairs, because things will break on this plane. Then there's the full electrical system schematics, and you can quickly look and see what's turned on, what's turned off, how your battery is operating the different things. This is your cabin schematic, your environmentals. There's a pulse oximeter, and this tells you how much oxygen you're getting when you're up at flight levels. So if you simulated a cabin depressurization, you can keep an eye on this. If it gets too low, you could pass out. I don't know if they modeled you passing out, actually. I haven't tried it. So, pulse oximeter, SpO2, is the amount of oxygen in your blood. A lot of planes that have oxygen only actually have a setup where you can put, it's a little monitor that goes on your finger, and you can put them on, and it'll give you real time pulse ox. So this isn't unrealistic to actually have something like this in here. But this will show your environmentals. You know, it's 57 degrees outside. I have the cabin door open, so you know it's going to normalize to the environment outside, and then you can monitor through the environmental controls the temperature inside the cabin. So you can kind of simulate, you know, cabin comfort. And then there's a complete failure system. I'm going to probably do a video where we try to break the plane and try to fly the plane as it breaks. I think that'll be fun. So I keep the global failure rate at real time. So then it follows these mean time to failure scenarios, which are, you know, any time from now until 2,000 hours, the left magneto can fail. So this is why you're going to want to run your checklists, because this plane will catch you. So that's the tablet. So I'm going to close the cabin door. And the cool little feature is that the key to open up the nose baggage, which is your main storage, hangs on the little hook there. So it kind of reminds you that, hey, if you're not paying attention to outside the plane, it kind of reminds you like, hey, your baggage door's open. Because then to open it, you can click it off the thing and it automatically moves it, and the baggage door opens up. So that's a pretty cool feature. So starting this plane, this is where I wanted to go next with this. So we're going to run a checklist. So the checklists, it does have checklists here. For this video, I'm going to use this checklist. I don't. I've downloaded a paper version. I like the paper versions of the checklists. I find these a little cumbersome. So we're going to pre-flight the cockpit. We're going to make sure that we shut everything down that we should have shut down when we left the plane. Because, like I said, the state saving is incredible. So pre-flight inspection. So we did our walk around. Control locks have been removed. Our seatbelts are secure. Cabin door is closed. And it is latched. Nose baggage door is closed. We'd be able to see it. Landing gear is down. Just want to go over these things. I haven't quite got the flow down yet. So what I do is I usually go in like a T, across, down, up, and then across again. And I think it's been working for me. So I usually do that, go through all the systems, and then I run this checklist real quick. So all the electrical switches are off. The engine and avionics switches are off. Our oxygen pressure. So I'm going to check the oxygen tank because this can get used up if you need it. I'm going to check real quick to make sure that it is above 15. So you can glance over real quick and see that. Then you want to go over here, and this is important because these can pop. I've had one pop in flight already for an electrical system. And they will look like that. You'll see a white. So you can quickly glance down the circuit breakers. And when you kind of hide, when you do that, sometimes you click on the wrong thing and you can, especially zoomed out, and you can actually accidentally click one of these. So it's important that we go over the circuit breakers. Intercooler air is pushed off. That's these right here, guys. So you want to make sure that they are pushed in. Cabin pressure shut off. Oh. So you want to make sure that's open. Cabin pressure shut off is open, and that is right here. So you push it to open it up. What these do is they cut off the so this gains its pressurization from the turbocharger and an air inlet from each engine. So if you pull these out, it will isolate that engine and it'll be no longer getting pressurization from that engine. Why you'd want to do that? Well, if one of my engines had caught fire or was leaking CO, carbon monoxide, it would be pumping all that smoke and whatnot into the cabin. So you would go and shut that off so that you could isolate that engine and then no longer have it pumping anything into the cabin. Keeps the engine on the outside of the plane. But you're going to want to make sure they're in for flight, normal operations. Alternate static air. You want to make sure that that switch is in the normal and guarded position. And then we will test our CO detector. Carbon monoxide is one of the failures, so this thing will make an audible tone. And then you can try to identify which engine is causing the CO. There's an emergency procedures checklist for that. And we'll go over that more in an emergency procedures video. You want to make sure the environmental mode is off. Flaps are up. There's your flap indicator. You want to make sure that's up. Prop sync is off. Throttles are closed. Propellers in high RPM. Going to bring them forward. This is getting ready for preparing you for your flight, so getting set up for startup. And the mixtures are full rich, so you want to bring them forward. And that your trims are all centered. So let's get back over here. Now look and make sure that your trims are all centered. Okay. And then we're going to look and see that the fuel selectors are on. So last time I flew this plane, I did shut them off. So they're still on. And that's the pre-flight. So we just went around and pre-flighted the whole cockpit. Make sure we're all good for ready for start. So we're going to go over cold engine start, hot engine start, and a flooded engine start. And that's going to be this video. I'm going to get you started up. And that's going to be the biggest thing, because you can really chomp these engines if you don't start them up right. So following this checklist, the battery master can come on. Now, although without you can put an external power unit in, via the tablet. Let me just show you real quick. I don't think I showed you. So on here you have external power and engine heater. If it's really cold outside, you're going to need to preheat the engines for at least 10 minutes to get that oil moving. That oil is important. And you have external power if you're going to be on the ground with this battery on for any length of time. You're going to need to hook up the external power or you'll run your battery dead. Excuse me. So we're going to turn the battery master on. We're going to check the volts, make sure it's above 23. We're going to check our fuel quantities. And then we're going to make sure the cowl flaps are open. So this click here in the center. So you can do each individual one or you can do them together. Doing them together is the best. I'm going to hold that down for 14 seconds. Just to make sure that it's open. It takes 14 seconds to travel from closed to open. That's why I would do the 14 seconds. So once that thing, then we're going to test and consider the annunciation panel. Make sure those lights work. We look and see generators are off, so that light's going to be on. The inverter is off, so that light's going to be on. And the engines aren't running, so they're going to be low fuel pressure in the system. So these lights are good. They've been considered. So we're going to test the fuel pumps. So all you're going to do is turn them on. Listen for that audible fuel pump. And that's it. And we've done the before start engine checklist. So we're going to start the engine. So our engines are cold. So what you're going to want to do is, so we always go right to left. So the first thing you want to do is pre-oil system. And I'm going to use the tablet to kind of show you what's going on with this. So right here is the pre-oiler. And what it does is it activates the oil pump. See? There's a pre-oil oiler pump. And it pumps oil into the engine, pre-lubricating everything. You want to keep that on for about 30 seconds. You can see the oil is running into the system. You can go up here and you can see the oil pressure gauge come up. Oh yes, that's another thing. You saw me click the gauge. There's a simulation on here to tap this gauges. So steam gauges have a tendency to stick. So you want to tap it just to get a good reading. Looks like we have good oil in the system. And we can tell by our gauge that it's in the white. So we'll shut it off. You can see it winding down. So we checked our, so tick that. Checked our oil pressure. Saw that it was greater than 15 psi. Going to make sure our mixture is full rich. So I do these procedures under memory items. I don't have these checklists coming up because starting up an engine should be a memory item thing because things start, happening. So mixture full rich, propellers are in high RPMs. And then we're going to move the right throttle to full. So we're going to prime the engine. So you put the right throttle to full. You turn on the fuel boost pump. And you see about 5 seconds, 8 seconds. So if you were using this, which you could, want to just get a little bit of fuel into those cylinders. You can flood these engines, guys. All right, so we checked it. We would check up here. You would have seen that it's above 50 pounds per hour on the fuel pump flow, on the fuel flow. Because I know I do that. I count 8 seconds, watch the fuel flow. I don't use this. And once you get going, I mean, when you first start, you can use this to kind of get an idea. But once you get going, you're not gonna need this. So then we'll close the throttle and then crack it. Then we'll engage the starter, and once it starts, we'll bring it up to 1,000 RPMs. We'll check to see that our oil pressure is in the green and that the right fuel pressure annunciation light goes out. And then we'll turn the generator on, and then we'll check the generator load. So we're getting a little ahead of ourselves here. So crack the throttle, about right here works best. We'll turn the magnetos on, and then turn it over. This starter simulation is incredible. It's not going to start right away. But once it starts, you want to let go because you can grind the starter. So we just make sure we're at 1,000 RPMs. You can see right there at the bend in the throttle housing. Puts it right at 1,000 RPMs. So warms up, it's going to drop a little bit, and you just adjust it a little bit. You want to check to make sure that you have oil pressure. It's in the green. It was well within 30 seconds, and that the temperatures are coming up. Okay. You can see all this on here. You can see that there's fuel flow. There's the oil pump is running. So you're gonna then, well, you're gonna make sure your beacon is on. So then you're gonna repeat that for the left engine. So we're gonna make sure mixture's full, props are full forward. We're going to then pre-oil the engine. So we're not going to use the tablet. We're going to run that for about 30 seconds. We're going to watch that gauge rise, give it a little tap. Once you have it once you have it like right here in the thing, you're good. There's oil in the system. So we shut the pre-oiler pump off. So I'm going to put the generator on for the right engine because we've been on battery for a while. And then you're going to check to see the load. You can see the load starting to come up. It should be at 0.25 or less in 2 minutes. And then you're going to check the battery temperature. Make sure that we're not overheating the battery. So there's a little red dial here that will, when the batteries are off, it's in the off position up here, and it'll come down and show you the battery temperature. You want to make sure we are under 120 for the first engine start. So we've pre-oiled our engine. So now we're going to prime it. Turn that fuel pump on. You'll see that climb. It's above 50. 6, 7, 8. Shut it off. And what's a cool trick is you know your other engine is already 1,000 RPM, so you just match the throttles. And once you do that, you just crank it over. Once it catches, you want to let go, so you don't burn that starter out. As you can grind the starter. Generator can come on. And that's startup. So the next thing would be is the nav lights, main inverter, and the master switch for the avionics. And that's startup. So you want to sit here, let everything warm up. You want things in the green before you start moving. You can see they're two different things. This one's been running longer. Didn't shut off my radar. That would have been one of the things you would have gone over in the pre-flight. And that's startup. So doing these procedures, I have not had a failed startup. So just to go over, this is the EDM 760. It's going through its tests. I'm going to do a whole video just on this thing. This thing is a powerful little piece of equipment. It's going to be used to lean out your engines and cruise, and then you can go through the different systems on it. It's really cool and modeled, almost precise from I've seen from YouTube videos of the real unit. Oh, look, it's 58 degrees, so you'd probably get some heat on, and so forth. So that's a cold engine start. All right, so hot engine start. So say you just flew in, you want to impress your girlfriend or significant other, and you want to do a quick turnaround. So you just shut off the engines to get her on board, but you've been flying for a while, and now your engines are hot. And what's going to happen is you can see here, the fuel in the system is kind of falling back, but there was little leftover fuel vapors in the line, and the heat from the engine has atomized them, and now you have what's called vapor lock. So the fuel can't get past this. You can sit here and crank these engines until the starter fries, and they're not going to start. You get them on both sides. So there's a procedure that you do to clear that vapor lock out, and there's a checklist for it. Hot engine start. So you want to make sure the fuel booster pumps are off. Mixture is full rich. Throttles are full open. Oh, I went too far. Okay, so you want to make sure the mixtures are cut off. Throttles are RPM, high RPM for the props. And you want to make sure that the throttles are closed. And then we're going to run the boost pumps with no fuel going to them for 10 to 20 seconds. You can see there's no fuel going into the thing, and the pumps are on. So what's that doing is it is clearing out that vapor, blowing it back into the cylinder where it belongs. You let it run, make sure that vapor is clear, about 10-20 seconds. This engine wasn't as hot. Once that's clear, you're going to shut off the pump. And then you're going to start the engine like you normally would. So we're going to bring the throttle to full. We're going to prime that engine again. Some fuel in those cylinders. Bring it back, crack it. Start her up. So that's how you do a hot engine start. You gotta remember to do that blowout before you do a normal engine procedure. Look at the left engine, you can see it's a little hotter, so there's more prominent vapor lock. This engine won't start unless we do this procedure. So, gonna make sure the throttle's closed, cut off, putting that fuel pump on, let it run for 20 seconds. You can visually see with this, that's pushing that vapor back out of the fuel line, breaking that vapor lock. So if you just came back from a long flight and you're doing another turnaround, you're going to want to do this. All right. Been about 15 seconds. Vapor's clear. We'll shut that pump off. And then we start the engine normally. So, mixture full. Throttle full. Fuel pump on. About 5 seconds, give it some gas. Things are warmed up, it's going to happen a little faster. Put that off. Crack it. And she fires right up. Generator come on, then you go on with your procedure. So if your engine's not starting, you might want to try this because it might be hot. So next will be a flooded engine. So here we have it, guys, the flooded engine. So you've primed it, you got distracted, you left the primer on too much, and now you've pumped too much fuel into the cylinders, and the spark won't ignite it. So we're gonna clear that flooding and start our engine. So engine start, flooded. So we're gonna lean out the mixtures. Put the RPMs in high idle, or in high RPM, and we're going to open the throttle a 1/2 inch, just like starting the engine normal. So then we're going to engage the starter. And once we do that, we're going to slowly advance the throttle till the engine catches. You might have to do this more than once. And then once it catches, we're going to bring it back to idle. So let's start. Let's engage the starter. Then we're going to advance the throttle until the engine catches. And then we're going to bring it back to our idle. That's just like that. Then you're going to bring the mixture slowly up to full rich. And then do our after start check real quick. Same with the left engine. We flooded her. So I'm going to keep it lean. Correct the throttle halfway. Gauge the starter. Slowly bring up the throttle so we push that old fuel out. Catches. Bring it back. And we're going to slowly bring the mixture back up to full. And there you go. That's a flooded engine. So I'm going to go over the panels real quick. So right here we have our cow flaps and oiler and our engine Hobbs meters. See, I put about almost 4 hours in this plane. Here is your electrical power, engine power. You have the generators, batteries, left generator, right generator, battery, your avionics setup. It's main inverter, then an avionics master, and shutting it off, it's avionics master, main inverter. Your mags, it's just like any other piston engine, left, right, both, start. And when we go over the run-up, you test it just like if you were in your system. So moving over in the T, so you got your 6-pack, airspeed, artificial horizon, altimeter, ADI, HSI, vertical speed, turn coordinator, secondary. This runs off of nav2. You can use this as an ILS as well. This is a VOR, and then your radar altimeter. Up here you have your mode light selector. Conveniently also you can use it to select autopilot modes. Since it's down here, you're going to have to keep looking down and looking back up. Going across in the T, you have your manifold pressure, split needle, left and right. Same with the RPM, split needle, left and right. And then fuel flow indicator. We're at idle, so we're at barely any fuel being used. Right here, this is the left engine. You got your oil pressure, your cylinder head temperature, and your oil temperature. Same with the right. Oil pressure, cylinder head temperature, oil temperature. It's very important. To these gauges you're going to be using a lot in flight. You have a thrust detector. So if you lose an engine, one of these will light up so you can quickly identify which engine is lost power. Your GPS radio stacks, radar, weather radar. You have a transponder unit, your ADF. You have two of them. Well, this is the KNS 81, so this is the RNAV, and this is the ADF. So it had an old, the KNS 81 is a old style RNAV. It's not the RNAV that we think of, like an RNAV approach. This was able to set a location on a VOR more precisely, so you could follow this to the VORs rather than this. Because this, you'd have to go get on a radial, and you might have to fly out of the way. With this, you can get a more direct approach to that VOR, and it cut down flying times. So it was a great addition to flight in the late 70s, early 80s. I don't use it. I'm certainly going to do a video on it for those that want to use it, and it'll be part of this tutorial series. So moving down in the T, so here you have your heater, got your windshield heat, fuel vent heat, pitot heats and stall warning heat, prop heat, left and right prop, and then your de-icer boots. So, go. See if we can see them inflate. Yep. Go to inflate, blow the ice off the leading edge. And it'll cycle through doing this one next. And that's a single cycle. You can also manually blow them up. If the cycle didn't work. This is your windshield de-ice voltmeter. Turn that on. It uses AC power. So you have to have the inverters on. Your airflow. You want to keep these closed in flight. I believe they do affect pressurization. You have your defrost air for your windshields. It's fogged up. I believe they will fog up. Moving over, you have your parking brake, your panel lights, and then these dimmer switches, you can adjust the panel brightness. The panel light model is incredible. I've flown at night. Just a quick look. I'll make it night so we can see. Can really dim them down. It has a red light and a white light. So flying at night with the reds on is really cool. And then you can turn off the reds, put the whites on, get that flood effect. You can adjust the panel lighting, the engine lighting, and then it has a cabin flood up here, as well as individual cabin lights. The lighting model is is done really well. So you can, you can set it up for storm. Like today is a gloomy day. And you bring up the white, bring up those instrument lights. And this is how I'd run it on this cloudy day, this gloomy day. You can even bring up, if you're flying in storms, you can bring up that white even more. All right, so that's your lighting. So you got nav, beacon. You push them down, you got the strobe lights and the nav lights. Push that down, you got the rotating beacon and the recognition lights, which are out on the edge here, and they're flashing. They wig-wag back and forth. You got your wing ice light, which is nice and bright. Your taxi lights and your landing gear lights. They're modeled really nicely. So here you got your landing gear, typical landing gear, 3 greens for down, pitch trim. If you want to use the autopilot, this has to be on. It's in the checklist, part of the run-up. Make sure that's on. You have your load meters and voltmeters. Prop amps, that is for the prop heat. Turn that on. They have the well, I think I found a bug. Well, anyway. Your volt loadout, this is your battery. Your instrument air. So this uses a gyroscopic instrument system using vacuum. So this is your vacuum. So you want to make sure that that's in the green. And you can adjust, failed sources left and right. These will light up if they fail. Then here you have your elevator trim, autopilot, engine controls. This light is an indicator also for loss of power or engine failure. So if your engine's starting to lose power due to some failure, an amber light will light up on which side it's happening. If you have a complete engine failure, this will light up red, and you can quickly identify which engine it is so you can secure that engine. Going down, you got your autopilot, you got your rudder and aileron trims, and then your fuel. So you can cross feed, and you actually cross feed in the run up. So this is your de-icing pressure indicator. When you activate the boot, the air boot de-icer, it uses some of the air source to pump up the thing. You can catch the pressure here. Your prop sync. When you turn that on, it'll sync up the engines. And you'd use this for climb out, cruise, and descent. You can shut it off for landing and takeoff. Over here you have your flaps, your cabin environmental controls, so you can turn on the heat, turn on the air conditioner. What's pretty cool is when you turn on the air conditioner, this little door opens up, catches air going across the engine, puts it into the condenser. You're going to want to shut that off for takeoff because it takes away power from the engine. you can manually control the temperature if you want. This is your vent blower speeds, how fast your fan is operating. Your pressurization control, it's automatic, so you have dump, normal, and test. When you put it in test, you can set it for 1,000 feet below, put it in test, and if the RPMs are up around 2,500 because it uses the turbochargers, you'll see it's starting to depressurize the cabin. That's actually part of our run-up too. I just wanted to show you. Dump pressure. So left and normal, whatever you set this at, so you're going to want to set it up initially to 500 feet above your first constraint altitude above 12,000 feet. You want to set it up on the ground. If you're going to go right up to cruise, you can just set it up to cruise. So the bottom number is the altitude, the top number is your cabin differential. And it'll go all the way up to 30,000. So you always want to set it 500 feet above the cruise. The cabin air, this is the air temperature pull. So if you're, pardon me, if you're up high, you could pull this to what it is. It just opens the gate wide for the heat to come in. This is your pressurization cutoff, so you can isolate each engine. The co-pilot's 6-pack with the addition of the battery temperature. You always want to make sure you're below 140 at all times, or you'll cook your battery. All the circuit breakers, they all work. Each one can pop. This is your alternate air source. So if you're having problems with your vacuum system, you can turn it to an alternate air source. Part of one of the checklists. Your oxygen plug-in. The oxygen system is modeled. If you turn it on, it will start depleting. So the autopilot is a Sentry 4 autopilot. It does not have a vertical speed hold on it. It has an attitude pitch hold, which I like better. It's really precise in setting up for those altitude constraints. So whatever altitude you set in here, you can push it in for 100s. So whatever altitude you set in here, when you turn your autopilot on, it automatically goes to heading mode and pitch mode. And it will hold the last pitch that you've set. So on the climb out, say you had 10 degrees of pitch, when you turn the autopilot on, it's going to hold that 10 degrees of pitch. So it's really nice. So when I say, so you climb out under pitch mode, you get to the altitude you set, and it'll automatically capture that. Switch over to altitude. You can do heading or navigation for your lateral movement. So you get whatever your heading bug is. When you turn the autopilot on, it's going to turn towards that, unless you've turned on the nav. Then it'll go to your nav. It has approach mode. It'll fly both RNAV and GPS approaches. Rev is your back course, and then go around mode. I'll do a separate video on the autopilot as well. So cabin, the only thing with the cabin is back here. So under pressure, even the slightest pressure, this door will not open. So that's what this red handle is. This red handle overrides the pressure lock on the thing. So you pull that, disconnect the pressure lock, and then you can open up the door. The thing is, you cannot close the door from... Oh wait, you can. Cool. I thought you could. And then it'll automatically reset that red handle. So that's the startup and system cockpit procedures for the Beech Duke. The next video is going to be run up and taxi. So we'll see you then. Thanks for watching.